We have Dr. Emily Sáenz, who's also my co-planner for this virtual conference and one of Met Opera's educational consultants and easily one of my favorite humans. So back home in Fort Worth, Texas, Emily heads the Benbrook Middle High School Choir and is a winner of the Friedman Chair of Excellence in Teaching Award. So 3, 2, 1, action.
Thank you, Ray. That was wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Pottinger. I always love to hear you speak. Well, I love the opera Don Giovanni, and part of that reason that it's very special to me is that I met my husband when we were both young artists in a terrible touring production of Giovanni. So we bonded over some of that music. So this is really special to me. I'm going to keep it really quick and short for you guys and just go over some of the activities that are in the ed guide, some of the things that we created for you all to talk with your kids about this opera. Since we've done this opera in the last 5 years, we wanted to put kind of a fresh take on things. So I am going to jump in here with a little PowerPoint explaining everything. And here we go. Thank you to Canva. All right. Here we go, present. Sorry, folks. All right, here we are. So this is a new production, and I thought I'd introduce one of the ways that I introduce opera plots to my kiddos. This is an opera in brief clip. I'm just going to show you the first act of it. Dallas Opera has a whole bunch of these, a whole slew of them, including videos that explain just the basics about what opera is, and they're funny and clever and very short. So I like to use these sometimes as introductory tools to the plot. Let's just watch the first act here of Giovanni and see what you think.
Hello, and welcome to Opera in Brief, the show that summarizes operas for your convenience and entertainment. Today we will be discussing Mozart's 1787 opera Don Giovanni, which is an operatic take on the famous legends of Don Juan. It's the story of a man who gets his comeuppance after having his way with hundreds of different women in varying degrees of consent. He keeps a list. It's pretty gross. So Act 1 opens on just such a scene. It's nighttime and Giovanni's manservant Leporello is keeping watch as Giovanni sneaks into the room of Donna Anna for some late-night magic. Anna cries for help and Giovanni flees. Anna's father, the commendatore, stops him in the garden and challenges him to a duel to avenge his daughter's honor. Giovanni wins and escapes. Anna returns with her betrothed, Don Ottavio, who vows revenge at her request. Back outside Giovanni's place, Leporello scolds him for being, if we're perfectly honest, a pretty terrible dude. Another woman, Donna Elvira, enters singing about avenging her faithless lover, and just take a wild guess who that lover is. You absolute piece of— Leporello, you handle this. Just you wait until I give you a piece of my— That man is such a piece of work. Yeah, it's kind of his vital character flaw. It's almost like he's set for a tragic ending. You're telling me? So out in the country, Giovanni happens across some wedding festivities for Mazzetto and Zerlina. Giovanni offers the couple a party at his place as a pretense for some prima nocta, and the groom is super pissed about it. Fortunately, in walks Donna Elvira to extract Zerlina from the situation. Next come Anna and Ottavio, who don't recognize Giovanni in the daylight and ask for his help in avenging her father's death. Elvira returns and exposes him for who he is, which really only leads to more confusion. Back at Giovanni's place with the party in full swing, Mazzetto watches Zerlina as Giovanni tries to pick things up where they left off. He accidentally finds Mazzetto and tries to smooth things over. Ottavio, Anna, and Elvira enter in masks, and Leporello invites them to the party. They privately state their intention to set things right. Inside, Giovanni tries again to pop the cork with Zerlina. She yells for help, and he makes a scene of accusing Leporello of doing the deed. The other three reveal themselves, and Ottavio pulls a gun on Giovanni, who slips right through their fingers as the curtain falls. End Act 1. Act 2 opens back at Donna Elvira's place. Leporello is like, listen, you have gone off the rails and I'm outie. But Giovanni throws some more money at him and he's like, you got me there. Then they switch clothes so Giovanni can look low class. He attempts to give Elvira's maid a new dust mop.
Sorry, everybody.
But Mazzetto and company bust on looking for Giovanni, who they don't recognize and who joins the party.
There we go. Sorry about that. Haven't had that happen before. Okay, so you can see those are just so cute and clever, and there's tons of little jokes in there that I was watching your faces as you were catching all those little jokes. So you can show that to the class. Sometimes also for my musical theater class, I will assign different characters and I will turn the the video off so they can just hear the audio, and they have to rush around and act out whatever the narrator is narrating. So, and that's usually pretty enjoyable to the kids and to me. So that's a really easy thing to use as a tool for introduction. And
Party, which he proceeds to break up and
I'm
Hans
hoping
Mazzetto
that
into
that
me
will
and
work
runs
for
out
you.
laughing. Celine.
My goodness. Now let me take you here to the next slide. And I'm going to jump right here, and hopefully this will not be funky for me. Hey, there we go. Oh, okay. So thanks to Dr. Pottinger, we've already learned a whole lot of wonderful things about this opera. And one thing that I like to stress to the students is that this is a tragic comedy. So we've got a little bit of tears, we've got a little bit of laughter. It's like a really good episode of Friends. And so there's a little something for everyone. This production in particular has got a new abstract architectural landscape that's really unique and really leaves room for the singers to bring their own kind of influence to the characterization, which I really, really love. Also, we've got a brand new lady conductor in the pit, Miss Natalie Stutzmann. So that's really exciting. I like to bring that out every time we've got a female maestro. So these are the 3 activities that I designed for you: the Stealthy Serenade, the Catalog, and the Thrill of the Chase. These are all for you in the Ed Guide. They're ready to go, as in this PowerPoint will also be made available to you.
Emily, I'm so
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but I think we are frozen on the video,
Oh,
and we
no.
don't actually. Now we see your slides.
Hey,
There
it's
you
almost
go.
like I've never done this before. Woo!
Thank you. Sorry to
Fun.
interrupt.
No, thank you for telling me. Thank you, Ray. So here we are on the Stealthy Serenade. This is all about Giovanni's Act 2 aria, De Vieni alla Finestra. In this particular aria, which is so lovely, it is the most gentle singing that Giovanni does the whole show. It's very pastoral. It's a very, very singable melody. In this particular aria, he is trying to woo not Donna Elvira, but her maid, because he's already conquered Elvira. So now he's interested in the maid. And he does that by singing to her under a window. He plays the guitar, or pretends to play the guitar. In some versions of this production, the Leporello will be miming the singing while Giovanni sings behind him. So there's a lot of different clever ways to stage it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful aria. So first we'll listen to the aria and discuss what we hear musically. How do you know it's a serenade? What kind of feelings does it stir in you? How might you feel if someone was singing this below your window? And then we'll talk about some of the important elements of the serenade itself. What's happening in the scene, the cover of darkness. Usually she's up on a balcony of some kind and he's on the street singing up to her. What kind of things make it feel like a magical or romantic scene? And then we'll talk a little bit about films and plays and stories that include nighttime serenades. There's a whole lot of them. We're going to take a look at that list here in a second. And then we will do our super fun activity, which is a lip sync serenade battle. A serenade off, if you will. So these are just some of the nighttime serenades that I thought of whenever I was making a list. Romeo and Juliet, of course, and West Side Story. But anyone remember the one from Say Anything where he holds the cassette player? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. My students told me that Deadpool 2 has a good one. So I'm sure that there's probably some YouTube clip of each of these that you could show just to help, get the kids' minds working. But those are all very easy to discuss and to find commonalities between those. If you wanted to take a look at the aria while you're listening to it earlier on in the lesson, that's pretty easy to find. But also we have an incredible arrangement of this aria by David O on the Met website available to you. This is an SATB arrangement, very singable. It's in an easy to read key, which we're always excited about for young readers. And, for instrumentalists, it's great to listen to how Mozart turns a guitar, puts a guitar in the orchestra pit, and how does that sound? And how does that sound in a piano? So there's lots to discuss there about the texture. And if you want to sing through it as a group, that's a great thing to do as well. I love the lip sync battles that are often on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And so I've got this one here for you. We're not going to play it right now, but this is Melissa McCarthy and Jimmy Fallon doing their own lip sync battle. For those of you that don't know what a lip sync battle is, you have a snippet of a song and someone gets up and pretends to sing it while it plays loudly behind them, and they have to really sell it, and then the audience gets to decide who does it best. So I encourage you to watch this one if you haven't seen it. Finally, as just an extra credit for this scene, if you are in the mood for an arts and crafts activity, I've got instructions for you to make your very own cardboard guitar with items that you might just have hanging around in your classroom. I know that I have boxes in my classroom all the time from shipments and stuff like that. So this is a way to use up some of that old cardboard. So especially as we're nearing the end of the semester, if you've lost your steam, man, have them make a cardboard guitar for the first half of class and lip sync battle for the second half of class, and you've had yourself an easy day where you can drink your coffee in peace, and it ties to the opera. So all right, let's move on to our next activity. This is the catalog. So we referenced the catalog a little bit in that plot synopsis from Dallas Opera, but this is one of the most famous arias of all of Mozart's output, but certainly in this particular opera. Here we've got our good buddy Leporello telling Donna Elvira about Giovanni's little black book, which is filled with lists of women he slept with and all kinds of descriptors for each of those women. He says that the short ones are sweet. He says that the brunettes are kind. He says that the tall ones are majestic. There's all kinds of different ways that Giovanni describes the women to Leporello, and Leporello puts them down in his little notebook. So in this activity, you're going to catalog the catalog. So we're going to take the aria itself and go through and put all the different women that are described in different categories using the language that Leporello uses to describe each of those women. So for example, if we're talking about body type, we could put under the body type category, she's stately, she's tall, and Leporello describes that as being, I don't know, confident or something, whatever word he uses in there to describe that. Then we can talk a little bit about, sorry, let me go back one. Then we can talk a little bit about what qualities Giovanni is using to select his women, warning they are all things to do with the outside of a woman's body and not the makeup of her character. And then there's a little activity, a follow-up activity for your catalog where the students can write and brainstorm things that they find important in a friend or a partner, things that they would be looking for in a friendship that are important to them. It's a guided activity that kind of helps them explore things outside of the realm of the categories that Giovanni uses to find women. So looking at different aspects of a person's integrity and character and goals that would make them a good friend for you. Finally, there's a little game here to play, which is a reverse categories game, basically, where you break your class into groups of 4 to 5 people. Each group will select a category, people, place, thing, or activity that is meaningful to them. For example, they could choose camping, and then they will list 4 to 5 terms that relate to that category. Once all the teams have their categories and their terms selected, then each team will get up and mime the different terms, and the class will try and guess the category. So that's a nice filler activity, especially for a Friday afternoon. I mean, that's like a, 10 to 15 minute activity. It's a nice high energy way to end the day, keep everybody engaged when you're kind of done teaching, as we all get sometimes. Let's look at the last activity here. This is my favorite piece of music in this opera. La Ci darem la mano, which is the super famous duet between Giovanni and Zerlina when he's trying to seduce her. There's some really incredible versions of this that you can find on YouTube. Bryn Terfel is my favorite Giovanni, and he is so creepy in this duet. So I encourage you to Google Bryn Terfel and Ci darem la mano and see what comes up. So I've got a couple of different activities here that are kind of get people up on their feet. And the first one is a warm up called Honey, I Love You, but you just can't smile, or but I just can't smile. So this works where you have everybody in the class stand in a circle, and you pick one person who will walk up to an individual and get very close to their face and say their name. So for example, I might say to Ray, I could say, Ray, I love you. Will you give me a smile? And Ray's job is to respond, honey, I love you, but I just can't smile without smiling. Ray, shall we give it a practice go? Okay. Ray, I love you. Will you give me a smile?
Honey, I love you, but I just can't smile.
They are clearly dead inside because they did not smile. So the game falls to pieces pretty quickly, especially as what happened in one of my classes where a couple had broken up, a teenager couple, they'd broken up, and we played this game the next day, and one of them went up to the other one and said, I love you, will you give me a smile? And everyone in the room gasped, and oh, thrilling. So that it's a great little warm-up game to get everybody going and to kind of, get the talk happening in the classroom. So I like to start with that one. Then we'll move into something a little more serious, which is an analysis of the duet. So I've marked up a score for you. You can see the brackets here. This is explained in the Met Ed guide, but the blue brackets are for Giovanni's part. The red brackets are for her part. And then purple is when they are singing together. But you can also discuss them as their intentions. Giovanni in blue is saying, please come with me. You should come with me. Let's go do this together. And she's saying, no, I don't want to go with you. Like, I'm good. I'm going to get married to Mazzetto. And Giovanni eventually says, will you please come? And here on the page we're seeing here, she says, andiam. This is her moment when she gives in. And now once they're in purple, they're duetting together. They're on the same page. They're singing the same rhythms, the same melody line. And that's when we really know Mozart is saying they're communicating together in a deep way. They're going to go be on the same page in another space. Luckily, they get stopped before they leave. Finally, I really appreciate the way that Dr. Pottinger used the term sexual predator to describe Don Giovanni, and that's absolutely the truth. While I like to keep activities light as often as I can, especially if we're dealing with something that has comedy in it, in the case of Giovanni with the tragic comedy, we also have some real darkness here to discuss. And so I like to use opportunities, as I know so many of you do, with operas in the classroom to help students hone their adultness, we help them learn how to become better adult humans. And so Giovanni is an opportunity to talk with students about consent, about what consent looks like between two parties, and how that works in the real world. So this video is here for you. I'm not going to play it right now at the moment. If you haven't seen it, it's really fabulous. If you don't feel comfortable teaching about consent in your classroom, I completely understand that. I know on my campus that I don't know where else it's being taught. After I've done a little digging around, I don't know that it's being taught in any other class, and I think it's a really important thing to know about. So I want to teach it in mine, and if I can tie it into an opera, that's even better. So this little video, it just breaks down consent as if having sex with someone was the same as offering them a cup of tea. And it just uses that as a metaphor throughout. So I encourage you to consider this video. Even if it's not something you think you might use, I encourage you to watch it, make it available to your students if you don't feel comfortable showing it in the classroom, to kind of tie into Giovanni and what lessons can we learn from this opera, other than that you will be drugged to hell if you make bad choices like Giovanni did. I want to remind you of our Giovanni's Greatest Hits, which are on the website for you. So these are just little snippets of some of the most prominent melodic motives from arias and ensembles in this show. So what we're looking at here is La Ci darem la mano. We've got these in treble clef, bass clef, and then I think he did some instrumental versions. Maybe there's some in C clef. Please don't ask me to read those. being a singer. But so you can see here, you've got just the melody for La Chiraram. You could sing it on a, excuse me, on a neutral syllable. Da, 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 da. You could solfege it if you wanted. Do, do, re, mi, do, la, re. Whatever's comfortable for you. You could use numbers if you're really crazy. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 6, 2. So whatever's comfortable for you in your classroom and how your students read, but these are great little things to use for sight reading, to use for even vocalises. You can use this for warming up here. So I encourage you to take a look at those and work them into your activities. And I think that's about all I've got for you, coming in exactly at 20 minutes. Thank goodness. Is there any questions that I can answer for anybody about those items? Happy to do so. All those things are made available to you, and please feel free to reach out. Yay, Stephanie's excited about the C clef. Stephanie, so glad you can read the C clef because I cannot. So that's good.
Somebody has to.
Well, thank you, Met team. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.